Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Lauren. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 girls ages 10, 8, and 5. And today I'm going to be sharing an overview and review of Around the World with Picture Books, Part 1 from Beautiful Feet Books. So this is our first year ever using Beautiful Feet books, and I have done a video at the beginning of the year where I showed a lesson and how we did that. So if you're interested in how we actually did a lesson, I will link that down below. But today I'm just going to share an in-depth overview of what an entire chapter looks like. I don't know about you, but when I am researching curriculum and it's something that I'm really interested in, I like to see as much detail as possible that I can see. So I'm going to try to share a lot with you today. So we're going to get right into the video, but make sure that you stick around for the end because I'm going to share some of my thoughts and just summary and some tips and just some extra things about the curriculum. So stay tuned to the end. These are all of the books that we have read for the Tanzania and Kenya unit. We are about to finish up tomorrow and we have done this unit for 2 weeks. So here is the teacher guide, the lesson guide. This is the book that comes with, if you get the whole packet of this course, this is the only book that it actually comes with. And then here's the maps, and this is used for every single country. The rest of these are just suggested read alouds. You don't have to, they're not part of the lesson. These are just extra. So I'll show you in just a second. But all of these, I didn't purchase any of these. I just checked them all out from my library. Having them checked out from the library has been really, really great because we've been able to really expand our knowledge of every country because we were able to read so many different picture books. So I'm gonna go into what the chapter looks like right now, give you an in-depth look at Tanzania and Kenya, and then I'll just do a flip through so that you can see the book in itself as a whole. But these are the ones that we have read. We have really, really enjoyed this unit. So here we have, this is Around the World with Picture Books Part 1. Here are the countries that you will be visiting throughout this course, and it is going to be Asia and Africa that you will be studying. And then at the end, there are some nature drawings and art drawings that I will show you as well. This is just kind of an intro, what they're covering, how to use the guide, pretty self-explanatory. This is the books that will be used in this study. So with all of the countries comes at least one picture book to go with it. Some of them have 2, and I think some of them even have 3, but most of them have at least one book that you will be reading with the country. So we are going to just skip to Tanzania and Kenya. Like I said, I'm going to go over the chapter and then I'll just do a flip through so that you can get an idea. So lesson 1 is going to start with the maps. Every single lesson, the first lesson you will use this map book. And it'll instruct you what to do and where to go and what to say. So they'll always point out things like the rivers, the ocean, any like major, mountains or any land marks that are there, as well as things like in India, they pointed out the Taj Mahal. So anything really famous is what they will point out. So we like to do that as well. This is a really beautiful book. I'll zoom out so you can see it. This is just fun. My girls really like this book, this map. They like to see like all the different things there are in each country. So here we have Africa. It'll go over to this one first, and then we did Egypt already. Ghana we will do next. So here's Tanzania. And what I would do is they take turns, like, okay, Larissa, fine. I'm just giving an example. Find where is Tonga, and that's like major cities, or they would say find the great white pelican. So I'm just giving you examples of things they would say to find, and then afterwards we just kind of have fun with it. I say like, what is your favorite animal on here, or what is something that you notice about here, like, look, they're dressed a little bit differently than we dress. So just things like that, and we just take our time with this, and that is the lesson. It doesn't take very long at all, even adding those extra questions. And then next, this is the Wangari Mathai book. This is what comes with the lesson. So this will come in the picture packet. And for the lesson, they will always The ones that come with this, they will always give some discussion questions. So as you can see here, what are, here's all the questions. So why is Wangari called Miriam during her childhood? And here's the answer. So it will go through, and you can just kind of see how well they're actually paying attention. And then I did notice here that they said you can get this Mama Miti book, and I picked that one up from the library, so you could compare and contrast. So we read both of those together, and then that way we contrasted both of the books. And then lastly, you can, it says that you can work in your notebook. So when we're finished reading this book, consider recording a few quotes from Wangari in the student notebook. So my girls have a notebook that they do, and I'll show you those in just a minute. You can do the quotes. We didn't, but that is definitely something that you can add as well. This is very, you can definitely make this your own. You don't have to go exactly by the book. I really enjoy this. You can kind of go off on any rabbit trail you want and do as much or as little of this as you want. So here we have the library connection. Every single country will have this library connection, and they're not part of the lesson. As you can see, these aren't the lessons. It's just the library connections. So all of these are part of that library connection. So they're not necessary, they're not required, you don't have to do them. And then it picks up back up with a nature connection in lesson 3 and an art connection in lesson 4. So I'll get to that in a second, but I do want to go back to this library connection because this is where I think you can really delve into this curriculum, and I would take full advantage. I highly, highly recommend, if you're able to, taking full advantage of this library connection. I'm going to talk while I show you some of the picture books. These picture books have been some of the most beautiful that we've done so far. They're just really colorful, and I really have enjoyed reading them, and my girls they always listen, but I have enjoyed just reading them with the girls and getting their feedback on the books. So with these library connection books, they always incorporate some type of culture into the book. So they want to show how life is like. So for example, that one, that My Rows and Piles of Coins, it showed how the little boy spends his day. Bringing the Rain to Kapiti Plain. This one is one of those sing-songy type stories that builds on top of each other. So it was like they needed the rain to water the plants so the birds could, or the cows could graze. You know what I mean? I'm very much butchering it, but I think you get it. And so this was a good one as well. Mama Panya, I don't know if it's Panya or I think it's Panya's Pancakes. And I just really like, because a lot of these are books about children. Like some of the picture books in some of the countries are about adults, which is fine. But a lot of these have been about children, and just to see the way of life and how it's different from our way of, rural Kenya and rural Tanzania is obviously different than suburban or urban America. And so I just like to see the contrast. And then at the end of some of these books, we like this as well. So that's the end. And then it talks about village life in Kenya, the people, school, after school. These are the animals that you might see, and they give you the name. It would be in, I believe it's Swahili. And then, speaking Kiswahili, but it's the Swahili people. And then these are the greetings. Facts about Kenya, a little map, how to make her pancakes. This Bare Feet books, this company is really good. That's a few of the books that are in this unit. I'm not going to have a chance to go through all of them, but I'll just kind of give you a glance at a few of them so that you can get an idea. I read both of these, and it's about two little boys and how they are both sweet and kind and good-hearted little boys, how one was more diligent and hardworking and the other one was a little bit, maybe more whimsical and a little bit less responsible, in just how their differences was. So this was good to contrast this one as well. Just really colorful books. I really have enjoyed these. They always talk about animals. Each chapter will have several picture books, library connections on animals. So this was a wordless book, but this is pretty good to use our imagination and kind of talk about it. And I think at the end there were some discussion questions about the mouse and the lion and the difference, and how they both helped each other out. This is like a take on Aesop's fables. So sometimes they add those as well as their picture books. This is Chi Lin This is a giraffe's journey from Africa to China. So for the library connection, unlike with this book that comes with it, they're not going to give you the discussion questions like they are. They're just going to give you a little snippet of what it's about. And so you can, if you're like, I don't know if I want to get all of these, I really only want to pick and choose a few, you can see what it's about and then choose from there. I just go get everything. I say every chapter, I'm like, yep, I'm getting it, and I get all of them. And so, and then we read what we can, and if we can't get to them all, we can't get to them all. But I try to pick them all up. Then there's a few books on Jane Goodall and how she studied primates in Africa and lived among them, studied them for years and years, and how we owe a lot of our, how much we know and all the research due to her. I enjoyed that they showed ladies who were integral parts of helping to further a country and helping preserve nature and animals, and really stood and had passions for what they believed in. I like seeing good, strong female examples of that. I have 3 girls, so I like to show that as well. But even if you have boys, I think it's great to show that as well. So here is Wangari Mathai. She got an education back in the 50s and 60s when, a lot of African and Kenyan girls were not even able to read, and they weren't able to go to school. And she was able to go to school and further her education. She came to America, and she, for a few years, and furthered her education there, and then she went back to Kenya and just became a strong advocate for preserving the trees and preserving the forest and how important it is. And a tree is more than just a tree. Like, there's many more uses to it. So we really enjoyed reading this one. And then this Mama Miti, we liked this one as well because it showed the details of like how she did plant all those trees, how people would come to her. Then lastly, we had Jane Goodall. We didn't get to read all of these, but we got a good idea of what her life was and how she went to Africa and was an advocate for primates, and she was able to do a lot of research. This one, they said, is a 4th to 8th grade book. So we looked at some of the pictures, but we didn't do an in-depth in this one. This is so cute. A little fact about me, I am obsessed. I love monkeys and chimpanzees, and when I saw this, I just died. And we didn't get to read I Am Jane Goodall. My daughter has Who Was Jane Goodall? And so if you're looking for someone, you have a little bit of an older student, you can give them the Who Was books, and they can read like the biographies of some of the people in here, and it kind of coordinates really well. Okay, so then moving on to the nature connection. So you don't have to do these lessons in order. We don't. We always save this nature connection for the very last day. So what this is it's going to give you some indigenous animals. It's going to give you some facts about them. And then they always give you a documentary to watch, and they're most of the time found on YouTube. Now, some of the times they are like long, like 50 minutes long. And my girls were like, no, thanks, we're good. I just ended up searching in YouTube, a Burchell zebra or African bush elephant, and we'll watch one that's maybe like 3, 4, 5 minutes, and they get a good idea about it through that. This is the art connection, so they'll talk about a famous artist from that country and then show some of their artwork. This one, they will also show you, you can, on YouTube, you can view a video art with Miss H Tinga Tinga paintings. This is, I think, the type that is. And then there is a website to look at African art. So you can do both. You can look that up as well. We're going to combine these 2 lessons since they're both we're already going to be looking things up and doing that art. I'm just going to combine those 2 lessons. And sometimes you can do that. Again, this is super, super flexible. And then lastly is the Tanzania and Kenyan cuisine. These look really good. Some of the dishes, I'm going to be honest, don't look the best. These ones look really good. So it is, I'm going to butcher this, I'm sorry, nyama choma. This is short ribs with a yogurt chutney and coconut rice. That sounds amazing. So this one I might just go ahead and do. We haven't done all of them. Honestly, we haven't done most of them. We've done a few of the cuisines, but this one I think I'm going to do because this one sounds really great. Now I'm going to show you how the chapters are laid out so that you can get an idea of how each chapter works, and then I'll do a quick flip through so that you can get a more in-depth look. But I did want to point out, I forgot to mention that it also covers Antarctica and Australia in addition to Africa and Asia. I'll show you how the chapter looks and how all of them have some similarities and then some differences, some little nuances in between each culture or each country. So the first lesson will always be looking at the map so they can just see where it's at geographically. The next lesson will always be the book that it comes with. And again, it's going to have those discussion questions. And although Australia only comes with one book, if there's more than one books, then those will be the subsequent lessons as well. So however many books it comes with, those will be next. There will always be a library connection. And again, these are not the lessons themselves. They are just add-ons, which I highly, highly recommend to just kind of make this a little bit of a richer curriculum. And then this is where it will be different. This is where each chapter will look a little bit differently. So this is lesson 3 is where they're having you study art. And lesson 4 is a culture connection. Sometimes it's a poetry connection. Sometimes it's a biography. Sometimes it's a history connection. So this is where it differentiates just a little bit of nuance. And then it comes back to every single one has a nature connection again, where they're studying those and learning a little bit about those indigenous animals. And my girls love to paint them. They're back here. I'll show you. Each chapter has its own set of pages back there that I'll show you in just a minute. And that's where you can get that from. And then again, so this is a poetry connection. That is not in every single one. So the connections are always a little bit different, but within that same Charlotte Mason scope. And then it will have a cuisine. So every single chapter you will be seeing, and you have the option to make food from that culture. And then this one has Pavlova. So she was a ballerina. We actually did this food. We did the leg of lamb and we made the Pavlova in honor of her. It was really good. Well, not in honor of her, but we made the Pavlova because my girls were excited about that one. So this is kind of how a chapter is laid out. Now I'm just going to go do a quick flip through so that you can get a more in-depth look at what each chapter is going to entail. Lastly, I just want to point out there is additional books on Africa. So there's all these different countries that they have a recommended picture book. So I think we're not going to have time to do these this school year. I think what I'm going to do is pick these up from the library this summer and just read these kind of at a slow pace. And that way we can get to learn about these countries as well. I mean, very, very vaguely, like it's not going to be in depth, but I want to add these as well because I've really enjoyed the picture books that they have suggested so far. Then next will be the art connection. So that's what I was showing you in that lesson. So this is, I just make a copy of these. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can download these as well from the website. They're free downloads. So even if you don't use this curriculum, you can still download these. I just copy these. It is a picture of indigenous animals from that country. And then there's always a flag and a map of the country. So they can either paint them, they can color them. I don't care what they do. It's up to them. And then they cut them out and put them in their notebooks. So there's one of these for every single country. And then at the back, here's art. So there's some famous art or just art that is connected to the country. And it's not every single country has one of these, but a lot of them do. So we paint those as well or color them, whatever they prefer. Okay, so just some random things that I had noticed throughout the year that I just wanted to point out and to kind of present as well. So this, although Beautiful Feet books, I have looked at other courses that they have. So some of their history courses and things like that are like Christian based. This one is not overtly Christian. Actually, it's pretty neutral. When we studied Egypt, they mentioned there were some books for Moses and Joseph pertaining to Egypt, but with all the other countries, there was no mention of God or Christianity or anything like that. So if you're looking for a strictly Christian based curriculum, that might be something to consider. It didn't bother us so much because all of our other curriculum is Christian based, and you can easily bring back some of these stories to, from like a biblical worldview. So that shouldn't be a deal breaker, but again, it's up to you to consider what's best for your homeschool. There was a few times with like Australia and one or two other countries where they had books or mention of like hundreds of thousands of years ago. So again, I just kind of skipped over that personally, I did. We're not going to get into a whole discussion about that here, but that is just something to consider. I don't think it's worth completely scrapping an entire amazing curriculum just for two little things like that. But just wanted to point that out there. The next one may seem pretty obvious. As the name implies, it's around the world with picture books. There's not going to be a whole lot of chapter books that you're going to be doing. And if you're like me and you're not a huge chapter book person that you love to read out loud to your kids, but you like picture books, this will be really good for you. Now, that's not to say that if you are a chapter book lover that you couldn't add your own. You can. They're just not giving a lot of recommendations for extra chapter books because you're doing plenty of reading with these picture books, and that will be, I think, enough to do the course, especially if you're adding in those library connection books. Speaking of library connection books, because not everybody has an amazing, great library. I totally understand, you might live far away or just have poor selections at your library. So I went through pretty much all of the books in the whole course, whether it was the main books or the library connections, the extra books that they recommend, and most of them are on YouTube. So if that is something that's holding you back, you're afraid, or you're like, I don't want to buy all those, or my library is terrible, or whatever the case may be, a lot of them are on YouTube. Some of them are better quality than others, but they're there. So that might be something to consider as well. Next, I just want you to keep in mind this: if you're looking for an in-depth, thorough cultural study and like the history of each country, this is probably not for you. You have to keep in mind, this is a kindergarten through third grade curriculum. They are keeping it light. It is very age appropriate. Now, my fourth grader did it and she loved it and she really enjoys it. So if you have a little bit of an older student, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But if you're looking for way, way, way in depth, this is not it. For the most part, it is going to be geography, where it is located in the world, basic food and basic culture, and some indigenous animals. So just a general overview of each country. It's just more, I think, to give an idea of like that there's different people out there, not the whole world doesn't look like how we look right here in our own little community or what we see on TV. There's different countries, there's different cultures, people dress differently, and there's different animals throughout the world that we don't normally see in our own backyard, and kids live differently too. And so I think that is kind of the main idea that they're trying to convey in this course. So one of the best things that I loved about this is that it is different every day. You're not just opening the same book and doing the same type of lesson day in and day out. You are doing, although each country is set up similarly, because you are reading about different countries, it keeps it refreshed and renewed so that every day is a little bit different. And then when you've finished studying that country, you can move on and learn about a new one. And so we have really enjoyed that. It keeps things moving along very nicely, and it doesn't seem stale or dry or repetitive or boring. So if you haven't noticed, I really, really love beautiful feet books around the world with picture books. We're going to be doing part 2 next year. And if you're looking for more videos, Dina from Pursuing Peace has a really, really excellent video about, I think hers was the part 2. So if you want to see part 2, her video was excellent. We 10 out of 10 recommend this. I can't wait to, I'm sad to be finishing this year, but I can't wait to see what we do next year. And, oh, I do want to say that if you're studying animals, so we did the Good and the Beautiful Mammals book, and we also did arthropods and ecosystems. So we were studying different animals, but specifically if you're studying mammals along in science, there was so much overlap in so many animals that we were like, oh, we studied about that in science. And then when we were in science, oh, we learned about that in this country. And so it was really great to see. I think that it was just all by pure coincidence, but most of the animals that we studied about in The Good and the Beautiful were from Asia, Australia, and Africa. So it worked out really perfect. So I'm going to wrap this video up here. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below in the comments. If you thought this video was helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already done so. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Until next time, I'll see you later.